So, I was 24 years old when I started in the automotive industry, and the rest is history. This industry has completely transformed my life. Now, you have a lot of people who are in this industry and a lot of people who fail, but then you have a lot of people who have created wealth, who have changed their life history for generations to come. So what's the difference between guys who fail and guys who succeed? See, when I was 24 years old, I got involved to this industry just like a lot of you have, or a lot of you might be thinking. I got involved in this industry because I really had no choice. I dropped out of college to start a sales job. The reason why I had started that sales job was because when I was looking at my paychecks, I was like, I'm almost making the same amount of money as I would if I would finish my degree. Why not continue doing what I'm doing and see where it can take me? So that's why I dropped out of college. How did I even get involved in the automotive industry? If you don't know who I am, my name is Vashal Singh. I've been in the automotive industry for almost 10 years now. I make very close to almost $300,000 every single year. The automotive industry, if you knew who I was 10 years ago, a lot of guys would have never pictured me to be where I am today. I went from being a salesperson to being the general manager of a dealership, which is basically one of the highest positions you can get in the automotive industry outside of just owning one. But a guy like me, who was always out partying, who had lost everything, completely broke, who was addicted, basically, which I think I was addicted to partying and drinking alcohol, which I guess a lot of people in their 20s do. But how did a guy like me end up having a life that I have? A life where if I look at my savings now, I'm shocked at myself how I have that amount of money saved up in my bank account. A life where we go on some of the wildest vacations that most people are not able to go on. How did a guy like me who was so broken, so depressed, wanting to almost give up on life, just give up on his dreams, how did I go from where I was to ending up where I am now? I owe it to one career, and that's car sales. Throughout my career, there were a lot of guys when I first started who had been there already for 10, 15 years. There are a lot of guys that I started with that are still selling cars, doing what they're doing, but I completely outgrew them. I was 24 at that time. So how did I get to where I'm at today in car sales? I got involved in this industry out of complete desperation. When I left college and I decided to get into sales, getting basically a job at this place called Laptop Depot, a place where they sold refurbished laptops. It was big in Alberta and it was a sales job. That was the only job that I could get at the time. It was basically supposed to be a summertime job. And for those of you who haven't heard my story before, I was the shyest guy ever. I could not talk to anybody in high school. I always wanted to be a part of the crew, part of the gang, but I never could because I never had the social skills. I never had the belief and the confidence in myself. But thank God I started off in sales. When I ran into my mentor, Dwayne, that's where my life completely changed. He took me from being somebody that I was and made me so uncomfortable, put me in such uncomfortable positions that I started growing and I started getting this confidence. I remember when he would role play with us how to sell a refurbished laptop. So basically he would tell me what to say, how to sell a laptop, and he would say, okay, now go sell it to me. And if you've never done role playing before in the sales industry with other people, it's very uncomfortable because you're put on the spot, you stutter, even like I stutter in these videos sometimes. That's why I don't edit it out, because I'm a real guy. I'm just like you. And it's to put things into perspective. A guy like me, with all the things that are wrong with him, I'm not perfect. How did I get to where I am? So we would do this role playing and he would basically make me go through our script that we had, and I would butcher it every time we were role playing with him because I was so nervous. And you know, he was my coach, he was my manager. How am I going to be able to do these scripts or sell these laptops in front of him? But as we kept doing it, as we kept growing, I kept getting better and better and better and better. Long story short, it became very easy. I was 22 years old. I was the #1 salesperson. Nobody sold more refurbished laptops. Nobody sold more warranties than I did. And then at 23 years old, they decided to make me the store manager. You can imagine being 23 and getting the paychecks that I was. From being a loser, my life started quickly spiraling out of control. I started drinking more, started partying more. All of a sudden now I had these friends all around me, which I never had before when I was broke. Everybody wanted to be a part of the action with me. Whenever we went out, I didn't know it, but was spiraling out of control. But even as it was spiraling, I was still performing really well at work. So what happened was they wanted to expand into BC, into British Columbia, into a different state, into a different province. I thought, you know what, this is my chance to completely change my life. Now the one problem was that I didn't have the money to open up this franchise in BC. So who do you go to when you don't have money? You go to your parents. And at 23 years old, being the salesperson that I was, I sold my parents on why they should sell their house and invest in opening up this franchise with me. And I sold them hard. Every day we would go at it. And I would tell them what I'm gonna do, the promises that I made. 1 year later, they sold their house. I moved to British Columbia. And 1 year later, I shut the store down. Told you this before, it was one of the lowest points in my life. You know, when you see your parents, when you put your parents through something like that, and you let them down, and you think about, they moved to this country in the 80s. It took them 25 years to get them to that house, which was basically their dream house, the house that they always wanted. When you do that to the people that you love, something inside just changes you, and you'll never forget it. Till this day, I never forget it. I'll never forget it. Even though we've gotten everything back and more than what we had then. But that feeling, that sick feeling that you had when you let your parents down, it changes you. You never forget about it. So I lost my business. And the worst part was I was about to get married at that time to the woman of my dreams who's still with me, who's given me 2 beautiful kids today. Sana and Anaya. So thankful for you, for my daughters that I have. But at that time, being in a Brown family, being in an East Indian family, being in a Sikh family, there's high expectations. Their parents were excited. They thought she was gonna marry this wealthy business owner who's crushing it, who's young, who's ambitious. Why wouldn't they want their daughter to marry someone like me? But then when I lost it all, everything started spiraling out of control. I felt so bad because their parents, obviously they were worried. They didn't want their daughter to marry somebody like me, and neither would I. Why would you want to? Somebody who just failed, who lost everything, who's living in his cousin's house. And when they asked me where we were going to live, I showed them a basement suite that they were going to live in. Their house at that time, you got to understand where my wife came from. Their house was a mansion. It was about 45 to 5,000 square feet. Their backyard was huge. And I was going to take her from the castle and put her in the basement. It was one of the toughest points in my life. And that's how I got involved in the automotive industry. That's how I started in the car industry, out of sheer desperation, because I had nowhere else to go. The car industry was the only industry willing to accept a guy like me who just literally had sales experience and no education. And the reason why I started was because one of my friends was already crushing and making $100,000 a year. The car industry completely changed my life. It gave a guy a shot like me who had nothing, who needed money right away. The car industry now has provided me with a lifestyle where I've gone to places that honestly, people only dream of. My parents have moved into a bigger house. They own an acreage now. We have our own home. We go on vacations. We go to Maui once a year at least, on top of all the other places that we always go to. Live a lifestyle where money is not always a concern right now. And I remember, I think a lot of you guys would relate to this. Do you remember going to the gas station? I remember we were going to the gas station one time, me and my wife, after my car had just gotten repossessed. And I remember going to the gas pump and just, my wife was sitting in the front seat, and I was just hoping and praying, please, let this $20 go through on my debit card. And you think that's kind of stupid. Why wouldn't you check your bank account? I was so fucking scared of checking my bank account. I didn't want to believe the stuff that I'd put my family through. And I remember going to the gas station and saying, please, please, please let this go through. And just checking my wife, seeing if she's looking. She's not looking right now, and decline. I just needed enough money to get home. $5 finally goes through. And I said, God, when is this going to change for me? When will this stop happening with my life? And I've already talked about this in my videos, how you can change your life, how 2025 is going to be the best year for you. But if any of you can relate to this story or are going through the same things that I was going through at the same time right now, I can tell you, I hope there's a light out there, and this video is a light that you can change your life. And if you're looking for the industry for you to change your life in, it is the automotive industry. There's no reason why in your first year you can make 6 figures. There's no reason why any of you out there should not be making a $200,000 income a year if you've been in this automotive industry for a while now. But I gotta say, the rest is history. I am where I'm at today because of the automotive industry. And if any of you ever need any help out there, need any advice, need any coaching, you can always reach out to me. Just give me a quick text at 778-928-0430, or you can DM me on IG at Vashal Mashiana, which is gonna be in the description below. But a lot of you I know have the same story as I did. I know there's a lot of you out there who are struggling just like I was and who just need a hope. I know a lot of you out there are married and have a spouse that you really love and you care about, or you might have kids and you just want to change your life as well. Get involved in the automotive industry, and I can promise you one thing. If you don't let me down, I will not let you down. I promise you that. If you got some value from this video, guys, all I ask is that you like and subscribe to this channel. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.